Hi everyone and welcome for today's project. All the materials that we are going to use are already displayed here and I will go through them step by step. First of all, this is a regular palette knife, basically used for making cakes, but I have used it for art ever since. Of course, some cups for mixing some resin, along as some popsicle sticks, Holzstäbchen, some glitters. This is a dark purple, a pink and a white glitter. A pink metallic acrylic color. And now to honor the sponsor of this video, because this board and the pigments are sponsored by Resin8, a dark violet pigment paste from Resin8 and a white pigment paste from them, along as some isopropyl alcohol, which is not from them, obviously. The board itself, it's a resin board, which is really fancy. It comes with these screws, and they go through these holes, obviously. And this is a board, it's pretty sweet, it's about 3 millimeters thick. And it's pretty hard, it's stable, and yeah, I put it elevated, as you can see, as resin is going to go through these holes here. And I'm really looking forward to work with this. It is covered with some plastic on both sides, so I'm going to remove the top side, which I'm going to pour on today. What a sound! And I will leave it on the bottom side because it is probably really great to remove when the resin drops are underneath and some resin settles there, so it might be a cool thing to just remove it then and remove the resin along with it. So these screws, I put them aside. I will use them in the very end when everything is completely done, and this gives it a very cool and elevated look because it goes through here and it looks really fancy and it has a cool design. And of course using the Resin8 Resin, which is cool for such a small project because it only has 15-minute working time and cures pretty quickly, so after an hour nothing is moving anymore, which is cool. If you work on larger projects, of course, it can be a tricky thing, so I wouldn't recommend it for a square meter project if you don't just pour a clear coat over there. So, but for this size, it is 30 by 40, I think, something like that. It is pretty decent, so it's cool to use there. And of course we need some gloves because it's resin and sticky, and safety first. So let's just begin with mixing the resin. Of course I will speed up everything here and switch over to the voiceover because this is easier than just working, and you know, I just prefer the voiceovers. So see you then. And I must confess, I was not too sure where to begin and how to start for this project. I initially wanted to go for a geode or a gate look, so adding some of my glass crystals on there as well. But then I reminded myself on these holes where I have to put these screws through, and I really was not sure where to add the glass crystals and not covering any of these holes to make it look decent in the end, and I didn't want to add the glass crystals just somewhere in the middle, or I just was not sure where to start and where to end. So I in a way decided to not use any of the crystals at all and just putting some of the resin on there, just like testing a new art supply, playing around and see what result I actually can get. So I wasn't looking for any decent look or design, no geode look, no agate look, just having some color blending on there, perhaps some color transition and perhaps some selling up with the isopropanol. So I really was bold and started from this point on. As told you before, I'm using the Resin8 Resin. It's a 1-to-1 mixture. It is great to use. You just combine both components, so the resin itself and the hardener, into your mixing cup, mix it well so that there is no streaks or lines in there, that it's a pretty much clear liquid. You will of course have air bubbles in there, as you always get when you mix resin, but these will disappear when you work with it and when you go over with a heat gun or a torch. So all good on this end. Just make sure that everything is really mixed well together, that everything is combined well. Otherwise you're gonna risk that your resin is not hardening equally, or that you're ending up having some issues when everything is cured, or halfway cured actually. So when my mixture was done, I divided it into my smaller cups, put the resin pigment in there along with the metallic acrylic that I'm using, and I also added the glitter into the resin because this just works always great, and resin and glitter, in my opinion, really just belong together. Other than that, it was pretty much just adding the resin onto the artwork. I started out covering most of it with the dark purple, which given to the glitter looked already like a night space or space scene in general, which brought up so many new ideas where I can use this look perhaps. I'm not sure though, but I'm pretty sure some space works are coming for future projects again. So I wanted one side to be as dark as possible when it comes to the purple. I wanted the other side to be more on the pink side, and having some of the white interlacing in between, probably creating some cells or texture. I'm not really sure what I expected, but I added some of the white in between and used my heat gun to move it around. Unfortunately, my camera stopped in between and I didn't really notice it. So yeah, you didn't really see most of the blending and tilting. I didn't actually tilt too much. I most of times used my palette knife and manipulated the paint just to give it the look that I had in the end. I did tilt to some degree that I get this movement in there, which I couldn't really get with the palette knife itself. But other than that, it was really nothing exceptional and fancy. To get some of the cells, which I got within the white, I added the isopropanol, which is an alcohol and works pretty much the same as if you would add some silicone onto your acrylic pour paintings. So it initiated cell creation within the resin. Although it is a bit different than the silicone does with the acrylic pouring, because if you add the silicone to your acrylic pouring, the cells are going to grow and they normally do not fall back and shrink together. When you have the resin, especially when it's a bit warmer and more liquid, the cells are going to move and to stretch and form and sometimes even deform again. So this is not so much predictable when it comes to the entire final result look, and you cannot predict what it actually does. You can be lucky and it gives you a super pretty result. You can be unlucky and it can mess things really up. So I would recommend before you use it, make sure you give it a try on another smaller project which you do not put your heart into perhaps, just to get a feeling how this reacts and how it reacts to your resin in general. I have used it for 3 different resins so far. Each resin behaved differently. So whatever resin you are using, make sure you test your paints and your materials with your resin just to get the effect that you actually want, because it might be totally different than the effect that I achieved for this resin I'm using here. And at the next day, when everything was cured, I practically just screwed these screws in there. I removed the clear film from the backside, which worked great as it took along all the drip off that was still underneath of the board, and it was perfectly clean. The screws went in perfectly as well, and I like the design that I got there. It is still kind of entertaining to look at and not overloaded with crystals and such, so I'm really happy that I went this direction. I of course would love to hear what you think about it, and if you are from the UK or Europe and want to give it a try as well, I would really recommend you having a look at the Resin8 homepage. They have awesome pigments, awesome pigment pastes, the resin is great, and they're also having super sweet stuff like this board is. And they just recently also added some woodcuts from G-Outlooks to their homepage, which my dear friend Kate also sent over to me to give it a try and which will come in a video soon. This was really fun to do. It is like a freeform geode, and I never tried something like that before, so I never made myself a freeform geode. So, but this is like a woodcut from a free-form geode. So I really loved it. It was fun to make as well, and the result is just pretty. The girls are super sweet to work with. So again, if you like, really have a look at their homepage. It's really great product there. So other than that, it was everything that I did for this project. If you have questions, as usual, leave me down below in the comment section. And you know the deal. Leave me a thumbs up if you like the video, subscribe if you're new to my channel and do not want to miss out any of my new videos. And other than that, I hope to see you in my next videos. Have a great day. Bye bye.